Hi, I'm Seungyeon Lee. I'm Associate Professor of Psychology and Counseling at University of Central Arkansas. And I teach a wide range of classes like developmental psych, positive psych, research methods, and then it's great to be here today. First of all, I think that's a very important question. And then I also would like to say that it is perfectly okay to feel unsure. Sometimes it's very hard to actually tell what is normal for most of the teenagers you surveyed when it comes to food or body image. So if he or she ever feels like something isn't right, maybe they are constantly thinking about food. Maybe they are feeling anxious or stressed about how they look. And at the time, there is a sign to check with someone. You really don't have to figure it out on your own. I would say any trusted person would be a good person to talk to. Somebody that, I mean, they actually build the strong rapport too. So school counselor is a good place to start. They can also talk to a trusted teacher, coach, um, parent or primary guardians, or if they feel comfortable, maybe just to see their primary physician. The main point is not actually keeping it for themselves. Eating disorder in particular are, I mean, really about food. It's about emotion, stress, anxiety, depression, and possibly self-esteem. The earlier they reach out, the easier it is to get support and start feeling better. That is my advice. Common misconceptions I have found that eating disorders and then body dysphoria only affects girls or people who are really thin. And then my answer about that is no. That's one of the biggest myths. Eating disorders can affect anybody. It can be boys, it can be girls, it can be non-binary students, and then they come in all body shapes and sizes. You cannot always actually tell if someone is struggle just by looking at them. So
Mhm.
it happens to anyone. It's not just about the particular person.
Okay.
It is very important to help with the prevention. For example, things like a perfectionism, bullying, or high pleasure from social media can make anyone more vulnerable. So when we know that, we can actually look up for ourselves and for friends. So it's like an early warning sign that we will need to pay attention to. That's a very important question to me. Without actually reference to professional resources and without actually consulting to adults, keep consciously thinking about their body images or food, and then just expressing themselves that they have some warning signs going on. That can be a really dangerous warning sign. So, self-diagnosis often have to do with the subjectivity reliance, just based on what people see and hear. So, it's really important to be objective. So, consulting with adults is the very first thing that they will need to do if something is not going right. And then also getting some professional help afterwards if needed,
Mhm.
and having a mental health professional to diagnose it. A lot of the time, some clinics actually give some free health screening just for actually getting some prevention and then get some ideas. So that's always the good start. But self-diagnosis is pretty much actually giving some like a mere interpretation without looking or relying on reliable sources. body dysmorphic disorder is probably another interesting terms that people may or may not know. A lot of times, people sometimes they think that body dysmorphic disorder, often mental health professionals actually call it like a BDD. It's just being insecure, but the main issue here is much deeper than that. PDD is when someone becomes really preoccupied with one part of their appearance, and it doesn't really have to be a body shape. Maybe their skin, it can be maybe their nose, maybe their eyes. And those thoughts actually cause a lot of distress. Bottom line here is that it's not about vanity, it's about anxiety and perception. So these are really mental health conditions. It's not really a personal trait. So a lot of people actually look things up online and say that I think I have this. And then some may wonder, is that okay? And my answer as a psychologist is perfectly normal to be curious about what you are feeling now. I actually think that's a positive thing, but self-diagnosing can be very tricky because online information do not always capture the full picture. So sometimes people might see themselves a list of the symptoms, but they don't mean they have the disorder. So it is always actually seek out professional help is going to be the very important step. And then self-diagnosis also may have to labeling themselves. So, based on how they feel, if their thoughts about food or their body are making them anxious, depressed, or feeling guilty or shame, or taking up a lot of energy, I think that moment it probably gives some enough reason to reach out for help. So I would actually say they don't have to actually have a diagnosis to deserve the support. If something is not going right, then ask.